Let's get to that flash crash caused by a fake tweet sent after the Associated Press Twitter account was hacked. Twitter is now working on what they call a two-step security solution to help reduce incidents of hacking. But let me backtrack a little. Here's what happened. The tweet said there was an explosion at the White House. Computers programmed to read news bulletins saw the words explosion, White House. They were keyed to read those words. That triggered instant selling. Now, I think it was 147 points down in a couple of minutes. Chris Dessi is with us. He's the CEO of Silverback Social. He knows what he's talking about with social media. I got to tell you, Chris, I found that ridiculous. It's exasperating.
It is exasperating. It's disconcerting, and frankly, you mentioned that the algorithms are attached to the activity and the content that's happening on Twitter, and I think that this is a huge mistake, and we're learning a very big lesson. The past few weeks within social media have been a coming of age, if you will, for social media, whereas a couple of years ago, it almost seemed like a tinker toy, but now we're realizing Boston bombing, and now we have this flash crash, and what we're learning is social media is much more powerful than perhaps previously indicated. I've been quoted as saying, and this is a little out there, but I've said that social media is much more of a spiritual awakening rather than a technological one, meaning it's visceral. It happens instantaneously. When you're getting people tweeting, it's tweeting exactly what they're thinking. There's no filter. People are not curating the content that they're posting, and certainly we shouldn't have algorithms listening to this content.
That's the problem,
that will potentially sway markets. It's a huge
it's the
problem.
algorithm that is the problem. If they're misinterpreting a fake tweet and you lose $150 billion. Now, what can you do about that? Change the algorithm?
You could certainly change the algorithm, but I don't think the algorithm should be attached to Twitter at all. Listen, I think Twitter is an interesting news source. I think you're getting recency, you're getting frequency, you're getting the different demographics that the news is coming through. But until Twitter implements simple two-factor security setups that Facebook has two-factor security setups, and Twitter's not having it.
But wait a minute. Is it Twitter or is it the Associated Press?
You know, perhaps it's a little bit of both, right?
But you can't tell a computer-driven program and say, ignore the Associated Press, ignore news. You can't do that.
You can't do that. So this is why we need to have stopgaps in place. This is why we need to have processes.
Who has the stopgap?
On both ends, I believe there are numerous groups that are implicated in this. It's Twitter on one end. It's anybody that's making any sort of major trading based on an algorithm based off the information on Twitter. The reason why they're doing it is because they realize that Twitter indicates sentiment, right? You can see if people are skittish. You can see if people are happy. You can see if people are upset. And there are statistics. I mean, there are certain times of day, certain points during the week where certain words are being posted more often. People are saying, happy things and wow, this is great and wonderful. And then as the markets dip and people tweeting different types of content, that's where it gets all wonky.
So you say these computer-driven programs operated by the big investment firms, take them off. Don't relate them to Twitter.
Saying that? I think it needs to be examined. It definitely needs to be examined because it's so visceral and it's so guttural and things that are happening at an instant. If something, God forbid, there's another terrorist attack, and God forbid tweets that are happening out are posting negative commentary, and perhaps it's near a major financial sector. Do we really want that to immediately affect what's happening within the stock market?
Well,
we don't want that.
But it will.
It will.
It
we
will.
need to address
There's no retreat.
We absolutely need to address
look, I said it at the beginning, I was exasperated. I found this ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the other side of the coin is, you've got to live with this. You can't just get rid of social media as a force in the financial market. You can't do that.
Whether you like it or not, social media is happening to you, to me. This is a cultural shift. This is not just a technological shift. This is why I go big and I say this is more of a spiritual awakening. This is us connecting as human beings, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Pinterest, Instagram, whatever it is. This is us connecting the dots on a different level via this technology, and it needs to be paid very, very close attention to.
But there's still people like me, for example, who will say, I'm not so sure I like this.
I'm not so sure I like
I'm not so sure I'm going to invest in that stock.
Right.
I might leave it to the big guys. Chris, I'm out of time, but this is a fascinating subject. It really is. Come back and see us again soon.
Thanks so much for having me.